Hello, beautiful collective. This energy is already coming in loud, and I'm going to be honest. This person has been trying to label you as crazy because it was easier than admitting you were right. That's the part. That's the hook. They secretly told themselves you were too much, too intense, too emotional, too suspicious, too intuitive, too dramatic. Whatever little word they needed to use, so they didn't have to look in the mirror and say, "Actually, I was being inconsistent. Actually, I was hiding something. Actually, you saw through me." And with the Empress reversed here, this is not fortune-telling. This is symbolism. This is somebody looking at your love, your softness, your nurturing, your patience, and somehow twisting it in their mind like it was pressure, like your care was control, like your standards were attitude, like your intuition was paranoia. And what you don't see is, this person is realizing that the very thing they criticized about you is the thing they're now starving for. Because I feel like you gave this person a type of emotional safety they did not know what to do with. You may have checked on them, supported them, tried to understand them, tried to be patient with them. But when someone is used to chaos, real love can feel like a trap at first. It's like giving organic fruit to somebody who has been eating candy from a gas station their whole life. Their body doesn't even know what real nourishment feels like, so they reject it and call it weird. And I feel like that's what happened here. They rejected your energy, because your energy exposed where they were underdeveloped. There's something here about them not knowing how to receive feminine energy, nurturing energy, loyal energy. Whether you are male or female, this is about the energy. You were showing up with depth, and they were showing up with defense mechanisms. But here's where it gets interesting. They called you crazy, but they kept watching you. They called you dramatic, but they kept replaying what you said. They acted like you were doing too much, but when you pulled back, suddenly their whole nervous system started looking for you. And now this person is sitting in this uncomfortable realization that maybe you were never the problem. Maybe you were the mirror. And mirrors only feel offensive when somebody is wearing a mask. And with this Eight of Wands reversed, that's exactly what I'm talking about. This is not just slow movement. This is blocked communication. This is somebody who would rather delay, dodge, go quiet, change the subject, leave you on read, answer the question beside the question, then simply tell the truth straight. And I feel like you picked up on that. You picked up on the shift before they ever gave you proof. You felt when the energy changed. You felt when the messages got colder. You felt when their tone was different. You felt when they were physically present but emotionally somewhere else. And instead of them saying, "Okay, yes, something is off," they turned around and made you feel like the problem was that you noticed. That's the part. Because this person was not upset that you were wrong. They were upset that you were too close. They were upset because your intuition kept walking into rooms they thought they had locked. You were asking questions from a place of feeling something, and they were responding like you were attacking them, because deep down, they knew there was something behind the silence. And I'm going to be honest, for some of you, it wasn't even about one big dramatic secret. It was the small things, the little inconsistencies, the delayed responses, the weird defensiveness, the sudden distance, the way their energy would be warm 1 minute and unavailable the next. The way they would pull you in and then act confused when you expected them to stay emotionally present. So when you reacted, they called you intense. When you asked for clarity, they called you insecure. When you said, "Something feels different," they acted like you were creating a problem out of nowhere. But you were not creating it. You were detecting it. That is a very different thing. And what you don't see is this person is starting to understand that now. They're starting to look back and realize you were responding to a pattern. You were responding to mixed signals. You were responding to energy that kept speeding up and stopping, coming close and pulling away, promising movement and then freezing in place. That 8 of Wands reversed is somebody's words not matching their momentum. Somebody saying one thing, but their energy dragging its feet behind them. And now it's bothering them, because the longer they sit with it, the more they realize you were not imagining things. You were not just emotional. You were not just suspicious. You were reading the room before they were ready to admit what was in it. And that realization is making them restless. Because with this Knight of Cups here, now the emotions are starting to move. Now the feelings are starting to come up to the surface. And again, this is not fortune telling. This is symbolism. This is somebody who may have had the cup in their hand the whole time, but they did not have the maturity to carry it correctly. That's the part. Because I feel like you were not asking this person for something impossible. You were not asking them to climb a mountain with no shoes on. You were asking for communication. You were asking for consistency. You were asking for emotional honesty. You were asking them to not make you feel crazy for needing the bare minimum to feel safe. And somehow, in their mind, that became pressure. Your love became pressure. Your questions became pressure. Your standards became pressure. Your desire to understand where you stood became pressure. And I'm going to be honest, that says more about where they were emotionally than it says about what you were asking for. Because when somebody is not ready to be accountable, even a gentle question can feel like an interrogation. Even a boundary can feel like rejection. Even love can feel like a spotlight when they have things inside of them they are trying not to look at. And that's what your love did. Your love put a spotlight on the parts of them that were still immature, the parts that wanted affection but did not want responsibility, the parts that wanted your softness but did not want to protect it, the parts that wanted to be understood but did not want to explain themselves, the parts that wanted access to your heart but did not want to show up with the level of honesty that access requires. This Knight of Cups energy is interesting because it can be romantic, yes, but it can also be somebody learning that feelings are not enough. A sweet message is not enough. A soft apology is not enough. A pretty intention is not enough if the behavior still runs away when things get real. And I feel like this person is realizing that they wanted the comfort of your love without the accountability that came with being loved correctly. Because you loved them in a way that required them to grow up. You were not just there to flatter them. You were not just there to distract them. You were not just there to make them feel wanted and then accept whatever crumbs they felt like giving that day. No, your energy had depth. Your love had standards. Your care had a backbone. And now that they are outside of it or feeling distance from it, they are starting to compare. They are comparing how other people talk to them, how other people check on them, how other people listen, how other people touch their emotions, how other people hold space. And nobody is measuring up. And with this Knight of Pentacles here, I feel like that comparison is starting to do something very specific to this person. It's slowing them down in a way they cannot ignore anymore. Because this is not the kind of realization that comes in loud and dramatic. This is the kind that sits on their chest when the room is quiet. This is somebody who thought distance was going to make everything easier. They thought if they pulled away, they would feel free. They thought if they stopped answering, stopped explaining, stopped dealing with your questions, stopped feeling the intensity of your presence, then their nervous system would calm down. They thought space would prove that you were the problem. But what happened? The space got loud. That's the part. They thought they wanted peace, but what they actually wanted was to avoid accountability. And those are not the same thing. Because real peace does not require you to run from someone who loved you. Real peace does not require you to make somebody else the villain just so you do not have to admit you were emotionally unavailable. And I feel like this person may have tried to distract themselves. They may have stayed busy. They may have entertained other energies. They may have acted unbothered. They may have told themselves, "I'm good. I'm fine. I'm done with that." They may have even said it to other people. Like, "Yeah, that was too much. They were too intense. They were always questioning me." But then why are they still thinking about it? Why are they still replaying the conversations? Why are they still remembering the way you cared? Why does your absence feel more present than other people's presence? Because they called it too much, but now nobody gives enough. They called your attention pressure, but now other people feel shallow. They called your intuition paranoia, but now they're realizing you were the only one actually paying attention. They called your love intense, but now everything else feels surface level. And this Knight of Pentacles is telling me this person is not just missing a feeling. They are starting to understand value. Slow value. Real value. The kind of value they did not appreciate when it was standing right in front of them because they were too busy defending their ego. They do not just miss you being around. They miss being understood without having to perform. They miss being seen underneath the mask. They miss the way you could sense the emotional weather in the room before they said a word. They miss how you made space for the version of them they were still pretending they did not need to become. And now they're realizing you are not replaceable. You are not just another option. You are not someone they can casually compare to the next warm body that gives them attention. No. They are starting to see that your energy was rare. And with this Five of Wands here, I feel like part of what made this so messy is there were too many voices in the room. Too many opinions. Too many people adding their little commentary to something they were not emotionally qualified to understand. And I'm going to be honest. Somebody around this person may have made it easier for them to dismiss you. Somebody may have said, "Yeah, that sounds like too much. Yeah, they're overreacting. Yeah, I wouldn't deal with that." And this person took that as permission. Permission to avoid the conversation. Permission to not look at themselves. Permission to call your discernment drama because it made them feel less guilty. That's the part. Because the people giving opinions were not the ones feeling the energy. They were not the ones sitting in the inconsistency. They were not the ones receiving the mixed signals, the hot and cold, the strange silence, the emotional disappearing act. They heard one side. They heard the version that made this person look reasonable and made you look unstable. And the Five of Wands is that noise, that outside conflict, that peanut gallery energy. Everybody holding a wand, everybody thinking they know what happened, but nobody actually standing in the middle of the connection with you. So publicly, this person may have acted like you were the problem. They may have made it seem like you were difficult, like you were intense, like you were hard to please, like you were always starting something. But privately, they knew. They knew you had reasons for feeling what you felt. They knew they had not been fully transparent. They knew they were leaving gaps and then getting mad when your intuition filled them in. They knew there were moments where you asked a very fair question, and they answered with defensiveness because accountability felt too exposed. And now those outside voices are starting to sound hollow, because it's easy for somebody else to tell them, "Move on," when that person never felt your love. It's easy for somebody else to say, "They're crazy," when that person never experienced how deeply you listened, how carefully you noticed, how much you tried before you finally pulled your energy back. This person is starting to realize that they let other people validate a lie they already wanted to believe. And that is uncomfortable. Because now, in order to take you seriously, they may also have to admit they were unfair to you in front of the same people they once complained to. They may have to correct the story. They may have to say, "Actually, I didn't tell the whole truth. Actually, they weren't crazy. Actually, they saw something in me I wasn't ready to face." And I feel like that's where the pressure is building now. Not just to come toward you, but to stop letting other people stand on a false version of your name. And with this Ace of Cups here, this is where the emotion starts getting real. Not the performative emotion. Not the let me send a sweet message because I miss the attention type of emotion. No. This is the kind of feelings that starts rising up when someone finally runs out of distractions. Because before this person can correct anything outwardly, they have to admit something inwardly. They have to admit that they cared more than they acted like they cared. They have to admit that your absence is affecting them more than they expected. They have to admit that there is love here, or at least there is emotion here, that they tried to minimize because admitting it would mean admitting they mishandled something valuable. That's the part. This Ace of Cups is not just new love. It's emotional honesty beginning to overflow after being held back for too long. And I feel like this person has been trying to keep the lid on it, trying to stay logical, trying to stay prideful, trying to tell themselves, "No, I'm not going to reach out. No, I'm not going to look stupid. No, I'm not going to be the one to say something first." But pride does not stop feelings. It just makes them sit in the body longer. And I'm going to be honest, this person may want to come toward you, but they are afraid. They are afraid that you will not receive them the same way. They are afraid that you will look at them differently. They are afraid that the version of you who used to over-explain, over-give, overextend, and try to fix the energy is not available anymore. Because you have changed, and they can feel that. You are not sitting in the same place waiting for them to finally understand you. You are not begging them to see your heart. You are not trying to prove that you were loyal, or sane, or loving, or worth choosing. Something about your energy has gotten quieter, but stronger. And that quiet is intimidating them. Because now they know an apology cannot be lazy. It cannot be vague. It cannot be, "I'm sorry you felt that way." It cannot be a little emotional cup handed to you with the same old behavior attached to it. No. If they come back, they know they have to come back with maturity, with consistency, with real accountability. With the willingness to say, "I made you feel crazy because I did not want to face what I was doing." And that is not easy for them. So there is this tug of war happening inside. Their heart is pulling one way. Their ego is pulling another. Their shame is saying, "Don't go back, you already messed it up." Their pride is saying, "Wait for them to reach out." But their feelings? Their feelings are getting louder, and your silence is making them listen. And with this Eight of Cups reversed here, this is exactly where your energy comes in. Because this is not just somebody walking away. This is the symbolism of somebody trying to leave something emotionally, but realizing they cannot disconnect from what was real. But for you, I feel like this card is saying something different. You did not walk away because you stopped caring. You walked away because caring was starting to cost too much. You did not become cold. You became clear. You did not become heartless. You became tired of handing someone your heart and then watching them act confused about why you expected them to hold it carefully. That's the part. Because for a long time, I feel like you kept trying to explain yourself in ways they could understand. You tried to soften the sentence. You tried to say it calmly. You tried to say it lovingly. You tried to say, "I'm not attacking you. I'm just telling you how this feels." And somehow, no matter how you said it, if they did not want to hear it, they found a way to twist it. If you were quiet, you were being distant. If you spoke up, you were being dramatic. If you asked a question, you were suspicious. If you pulled back, you were playing games. If you cared, it was too much. If you stopped showing it, suddenly something was wrong with you. And I'm going to be honest, that kind of dynamic will exhaust the most loving person in the room. So what you did was not a performance. It was not a punishment. It was not you trying to manipulate them into chasing you. No, your absence became a boundary. Your silence became self-respect. Your distance became the place where you finally stopped, auditioning for someone who kept acting like your love was hard to understand. And what you don't see is, that groundedness is making you impossible to dismiss now. Because before, they could tell themselves, oh, they're just emotional, they'll come back. They always care. They'll explain again. But now, you're not explaining. You're not chasing. You're not trying to convince them that you are sane, loyal, intuitive, loving, or worth choosing, you know. And that knowing changes everything. This Eight of Cups reversed is also showing me that this person can feel that you are not walking away from love. You are walking away from confusion. You are walking away from being made to feel unstable for reacting to instability. You are walking away from the version of yourself that kept shrinking your truth just so someone else could stay comfortable. And now, this new version of you, the quieter version, the clearer version, the version that does not need to prove a thing, is exactly what is making this person realize they cannot come back casually anymore. They have to get serious. And with this Two of Cups here, that is exactly the energy. Serious does not mean, I miss you, so let me come get comfort from you. Serious does not mean, I feel lonely, so let me see if the door is still open. Serious means, I understand now that this connection required a version of me I was not ready to become. That's the part. Because this person is not just looking at you like, oh, I'm attracted again. No. It feels deeper than that. They are realizing you represented a different kind of life, a different kind of love, a different kind of emotional stability, something more honest, something more mutual, something where they could not just hide behind charm, distance, excuses, or confusion. This Two of Cups is not just about romance. This is about meeting someone eye to eye, cup to cup, heart to heart. And I'm going to be honest, that may have scared them before, because real mutuality requires exposure. It requires both people to show up. It requires both people to tell the truth. It requires both people to stop playing the role and actually be present. And I feel like this person is realizing they treated something sacred like it was casual. They treated your patience like it would never run out. They treated your forgiveness like it was automatic. They treated your intuition like it was annoying instead of understanding that it was protecting the connection from becoming fake. They treated your love like something they could step in and out of whenever their fears got loud. But now your self-respect is awakening their respect. Because now they see that you are not just someone who loves deeply. You are someone who can leave when love starts becoming self-abandonment. And that is what is changing everything in their mind. They are realizing that choosing you is not just about wanting you. It is about becoming capable of holding what you bring. And what you don't see is their fear is shifting. At first, they were afraid of being exposed, afraid of being accountable, afraid of being seen too clearly. But now, I feel like the fear is becoming, what if I lose access to the version of myself I could have become with them? Because you brought out something in them, even when they resisted it, even when they criticized it, even when they acted like you were too much. Your presence was calling them higher, and now there is this conversation building. There is this confession building. There is something they want to say that cannot stay buried much longer. And with this Seven of Swords reversed, that is exactly why this conversation feels different. Because upright, this is somebody sneaking around the truth, avoiding the truth, carrying pieces of the truth away and hoping nobody notices what is missing. But reversed, this is when the thing that was hidden starts wanting to come out. And again, not fortune-telling, symbolism. This is somebody realizing they cannot keep moving like nothing happened when something did happen. They cannot keep pretending you were reacting to thin air. They cannot keep acting like your intuition was the problem when their avoidance was the smoke in the room. That's the part. I feel like this person wants to approach you, but they know the old version of the conversation will not work anymore. They cannot come in vague. They cannot come in half honest. They cannot come in with a little, "Hey, how have you been?" Like the energy between you did not carry weight. They cannot come in trying to test the temperature while still hiding their hands. No. Because this Seven of Swords reversed is accountability trying to break through pride. It is the confession after the silence. It is the admission after the defensiveness. It is somebody finally understanding that if they want access to you again, they have to stop making you feel like you are crazy for noticing what they were trying not to say. And I'm going to be honest, for some of you, this conversation may not even begin dramatically. It may start small, a message, a check-in, a "can we talk?" A sudden softness in their tone, a moment where they seem less guarded than before. But underneath that, there is something bigger pressing against the surface. They want to explain themselves. They want to tell you why they pulled away. They want to admit they were unfair. They want to say, in their own way, "I know I made you question yourself when really I was the one being inconsistent. But listen, a real apology does not make you responsible for reopening the door immediately. A real apology does not erase the confusion you had to sit in. A real apology does not mean you have to comfort them for finally feeling guilty. You can hear someone out and still watch their actions. Because seriousness is not a speech. Seriousness is a pattern. Seriousness is what they do after the emotional moment passes. Seriousness is whether they can stay honest when the conversation gets uncomfortable. Seriousness is whether they can stop hiding behind silence, excuses, and little fragments of truth. So the question is shifting now. It is not, do they miss you? They do. The question is, can they meet you correctly? And with the moon here, that is the perfect place to end this, because the moon is the card of what was unclear finally being felt, even before it is fully explained. This is the fog. This is the confusion. This is the place where someone tried to make you doubt your own eyes, because they were not ready to turn the light on. And I'm going to be honest. For a lot of you, this whole situation had you questioning yourself in a way that was not fair. You were sitting there like, am I doing too much? Am I being too sensitive? Am I reading into this? Am I crazy for feeling like something is off? And the whole time your body was responding to energy. Your intuition was responding to inconsistency. Your heart was responding to somebody who kept giving you just enough closeness to feel connected and just enough distance to feel unstable. That's the part. You were not crazy for noticing the fog. You were not crazy for asking where the road was going. You were not crazy for wanting clarity from someone who kept moving in shadows and then acting confused when you could not see. And now this person is realizing that. They may not have the cleanest words yet. They may still be trying to understand their own feelings. But something in them knows that the qualities they criticized in you were never the problem. Your intuition was not the problem. Your love was not the problem. Your need for honesty was not the problem. Your standards were not the problem. Their avoidance was, and them getting serious now does not erase what happened. It does not erase the nights you overthought. It does not erase the way you had to pull yourself out of confusion. It does not erase how painful it was to be treated like your feelings were the issue when you were reacting to something real. But it does confirm something. You were not wrong about the energy. They secretly judged the very part of you they now respect. They called your depth too much, and now they miss being met deeply. They called your questions pressure, and now they understand. Those questions were invitations into honesty. They called your love intense, and now everything else feels empty beside it. So let them get serious. But you stay grounded. You do not have to chase. You do not have to prove. You do not have to convince this person that you are worth choosing. You only have to observe whether their actions can finally match the seriousness they are beginning to feel. Because the right person will not need you to go crazy trying to prove the truth. They will meet you in it.